I would like to call the school board meeting for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 for the Des Moines Public Schools to order. Ms. Rios, could you please take the roll?
Certainly. Ms. Alonso Diaz?
Here.
Ms. Campos?
Here.
Mr. Dix?
Here.
Ms. Knox? Here. Ms. Martorano?
Here.
Mr. Mayberry Mace? Here. Ms. Norris?
Here.
We have quorum.
The first item of business is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Knox, so move.
Alonso, second.
We have a motion by Knox and a second by Alonso. Board members, please cast your votes. Mr. Dix?
Yes.
The vote is approved 7-0. The next item on our agenda is our district recognitions. Superintendent Roberts, are there any recognitions today?
Yes, they are. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all.
It's a great crowd.
It is. It's a great-looking crowd, too. You know, as we continue to bring forth recognitions at school board meetings where we celebrate the successes of both teachers, staff, students, leaders, in and out of the classroom, it's important for us to maintain this tradition because so often, many of our unsung heroes goes without recognitions. I'm pleased to share this evening that we have 2 recognitions. And even though school may be out for the summer, we still have so much to celebrate and so much to recognize throughout the year around the accomplishments of students and staff that I alluded to earlier. This evening, I'm honored to share the successes of 2 of our team members who are not just achieving and accomplishing locally, but they are doing so on the national stage. First up, Savannah Calloway. Savannah is a primary teacher at Coles Montessori, where she is making her mark on this important education tradition as she carries the flag of Maria Montessori and the work that she has done. Savannah was one of only 40 Montessorians under 40 who was selected by the American Montessori Society and Association Montessori International. Savannah is now part of an elite group from around the world working on issues that are related to change, equity, and diversity in Montessori education. This group is not just one that comprises of local individuals, but it includes educators from both public, private, and charter school, serving students from preschool throughout high school. Savannah's recognition as an up-and-coming leader in Montessori comes at a very important time for us here in Des Moines Public Schools, as we recognize the importance and impact of Montessori education, and for the upcoming school year, have decided to expand this offering to many of our students and parents throughout the Des Moines community. I'd like to ask Savannah to come forward to share a little bit more about what does it mean to be 40, under 40, as a Montessorian on this national stage, at a time when we as a district are working both not only to improve, but to expand our Montessori offerings. Savannah, come to the podium, please.
Thank you for your kind words. I'm honored to be a public Montessori educator, which is rare in our state. I've always been a believer and advocate in public education. I learned about Montessori my sophomore year of college. I toured the school I work at now, Coles, and fell in love with this teaching method. When I learned about this model, I knew I had to gear my professional dreams toward being a public Montessorian. When I graduated from Simpson, I accepted the position of a 3 to 6 classroom teacher at Coles, the only public school, Montessori public school in the state. Throughout my time at Coles, I have tried to do my part in growing not only my own teaching abilities, but strengthening our school. This led to leadership opportunities like building the Montessori virtual interface during the pandemic, being a PLC lead and community lead at my school. Last year, I started to become more involved in the Montessori community at large. Like many other education communities, the pandemic started several conversations in the Montessori world. The conversations had to do with equitable access for students and educator programs, making sure Montessori curriculum and practices align with our world today, and bringing to the table a diverse group of young voices that in the past were not in the room. This is where the 40 Montessorians under 40 began. I was among 40 other diverse Montessori educators. These educators came, like Dr. Roberts said, from private and public schools, infant toddler rooms to adolescent programs, and teachers and heads of schools. We learned from the American Montessori Society about their goals for this summit and their future for Montessori in the US. We learned from the National Center of Montessori in the public sector how they help school districts and lobby for local governments to sustain and create public Montessori schools. And then we heard from each other. There were celebrations and struggles shared, and many with a common thread. As a group, we identified areas that were not working or simply missing altogether. The American Montessori Society took those topics that came from the summit and created committees and focus groups. The American Montessori showed us that they are dedicated to growing and sustaining this beautiful and powerful model of teaching throughout the US. This year, DMPS and Dr. Roberts has shown their dedication in growing Montessori as well within our own district. I am glad to say that I soon won't be teaching at the only public Montessori school in the state of Iowa. I am eager to help DMPS build Montessori with fidelity, as I know many of my fellow teachers at Coles are. And I am proud to be a public Montessori educator. Thank you for your time and your recognition tonight.
Thank you, Savannah. Our second recognition this evening, as we know, after-school programming is important on so many levels, from supporting our parents and providing a safe and nurturing place for their children, to offering students an opportunity to learn through activities in safe spaces outside of normal classroom hours. Very important. We've also seen the research that tells us that with an extension of student learning throughout the day, it is likely that they are going to increase their academic performance and socio-emotional health. And here at Des Moines Public School System, we are fortunate that the person who heads our after-school program is not just a leader in the state, but one of the best in the nation. I had the good fortune of also seeing her as she wears multiple hats, walk across the stage as a graduate of the LEAD DSM Institute just recently. In fact, our person we recognize this evening was named as an after-school ambassador by the After School Alliance. And this recognition is one of only 15 individuals in the nation and the only person with this recognition from the state of Iowa. She's been selected to work with community leaders and policymakers to serve as an advocate and spokesperson to help build and further support all of our after-school and summer learning programs, programs that our families, those who work for Des Moines Public Schools and those who are in the community, can rely on every single day. At Des Moines Public Schools, our person being recognized this evening served thousands of students from more than 20 Metro Kids locations to our 21st century community learning centers at 15 sites around the district is among some of the work that she does. This evening, one of only 15 in the country and the only person in the state of Iowa to receive this recognition, Ms. Linda Phillips.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, and thank you, School Board, for your service. I am honored to have been chosen to participate in the National After School Alliance Fellowship Program. I am committed to leveraging my appointment to advancing the cause for after-school programs and advocacy. After-school programs provide an important service for working families, giving them peace of mind by keeping their children safe. They keep children safe and they provide children with opportunities for enrichment, learning, and positive development outside of the regular school day. I am grateful for DMPS staff, Metro Kids staff, community partners, vendors, and volunteers. Their tireless work, support, and dedication are the backbone of these programs and are pivotal to their success. I am excited about the impact I can make to ensure all children and families have access to the sustainable after-school programs that they need and deserve. Thank you.
Savannah and Linda, we are incredibly proud of the work you all are doing, and thank you for flying the flag of the Des Moines Public Schools all across the country. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already listened to the latest edition of the podcast that is fastly becoming the best educational podcast in the land, the Become Here Project, our DMPS podcast, I would encourage you, please download it in addition to other podcasts that you listen to, because you are in for a treat. Madam Chair, that ends this evening's recognitions.
Thank you, and congratulations again to Savannah and Linda. Now we're going to move to the public forum, and we provide speakers at the forum an opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes regarding items that are not on the board agenda. We also allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for up to 5 minutes following the presentation of an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak during any portion of the business meeting, please email rosa.rios@desmoinesschools.org. The same speaking protocols apply to all individuals who wish to address the board. Speakers will be called individually, and we ask they state their name and address prior to providing comments. Students and minors do not have to provide their addresses. Guests of the board are encouraged to speak to matters relating to the program, services, and operations of DMPS. Please remember that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. We ask all speakers to avoid references to personalities or character attacks, as those types of comments do not contribute to the purpose for which this public forum exists. The use of inappropriate language will not be tolerated, and individuals choosing to do so will be gavelled out of order and asked to excuse themselves from the premises or escorted out by district security. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in a discussion with public forum speakers, as it is our obligation to discuss only matters posted in the public agenda for the sake of transparency and opportunity afforded to all community stakeholders. Matters requiring attention will receive appropriate staff and/or board follow-up at a time after the meeting. Thanks for your participation. We appreciate your feedback and input. Ms. Rios, do we have any speakers for the public forum?
No speakers tonight.
We will now move to the consent agenda. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with a speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among board members at the board table, with speakers' comments informing the board's discussion, deliberation, and determinations as deemed necessary. Superintendent Roberts, I believe we have Goodrell in the house.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, Madam
Speakers
Chair.
will be asked to speak after this, but we're turning to Goodrell first.
Yes, we are. This evening, in keeping with our commitment to maintain transparency with our community, both in Des Moines Public Schools and external community around our goals and guardrails as set by the board, we are monitoring and discussing the guardrail this evening that speaks to the fact that the superintendent shall not allow the social and emotional learning needs of marginalized students to go unaddressed. Madam Chair, we have invited one of our dynamic middle school leaders and team here this evening to sort of preview for us what is some of the work happening in the school that connects to the guardrails, and for them to share the context with us that we may not necessarily get from a board report or monitoring discussion. We have one of the leaders to set it up for us.
And board members, as our guests are coming forward, we will not be formally monitoring this report this evening, but I do encourage you to take a look at it. It's printed out and in front of each of your tables, but you are able to ask questions should those arise.
So it is my honor to get to introduce Carrie Romo, who is the leader at Goodrell Middle School. Goodrell has done some really intentional work around social and emotional learning and around improving self-efficacy for students with IEPs and for teacher and student relationships with Black males. So, Carrie.
Thank you. Thanks for having us today, and I'd like to introduce our team. Everyone will not speak, but we will have some people. So thanks to the board for your service and commitment to DMPS, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity to celebrate our progress and intentional work. And I want to really center around those two things, celebrating progress with regard to guardrails 2B and 2C. Goodrell doesn't stand before you feeling like we have made it or that we are the model yet, but we strive and want to be here to celebrate the growth that we have made, acknowledging that we have more that we can do, but we're moving in the right direction. And around the intentional work that we are doing, we appreciate the opportunity to share this work as we have engaged in this and will continue to enhance and grow the work that we're doing. And to share that work, I have invited our diverse learning team and our counselor to share this work and their experiences and bring forth the voices and experiences of our scholars. And I want to start with sharing with you all our intentionality around the use of the words diverse learner. We have that as our team with regards to special education because we have a motto at Goodrell that we say every morning with our staff and every morning with our students. And it goes, this is our Goodrell roar, what we say and how we say it, what we do and how we do it for the betterment of our community. And so for the betterment of our community, we have transformed our language and mental models around special education and students with IEPs. We believe special education is a continuum of services that we employ to serve learners. And so we use diverse learners to center the humanity of our scholars and the assets they bring, like the diversity of their learning, their thinking, and their being. And so secondly, you'll hear from our counselors who are heavily involved, or one counselor is here today, who's heavily involved with the work around our Black males. At Goodrell, we seek out strategies and we embrace mindsets that center each scholar and staff members as fully human beings, knowing that they have intersecting, and we have intersecting identities that impact how we experience schools. And so with that, we devote much of what we do to centering around those models. And so with that, I'm going to first bring our diverse learner team, and then followed by that will be our counselor.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Haley Mejia, and I just completed my 4th year teaching for Des Moines Public Schools. I am the oldest of 6 kids, one of which had a variety of diverse physical and intellectual differences. Growing up with a sibling who had diverse needs allowed me to see special education and all that it could do for our students. Sadly, also see some of the harm it could cause for our kids. In my short teaching career, I have had the opportunity to teach at a couple DMPS buildings. All of these life circumstances have allowed me to see how truly unique Goodrell is. One common theme throughout education, due to circumstances out of many people's control, is to give students services and instruction that fits the system in place. This aspect of education was not something the Goodrell Diverse Learner team was willing to accept. As allocations and resources and students change over the years, what might work one year will not work the next. A few years ago, Goodrell's model for special education was just co-teaching. In this setting, diverse learners have access to 2 licensed teachers that teach a core class. However, this model is great for many students. However, it can be more restrictive for others. Goodrell's diverse learner team realized the co-teaching model by itself was not enough. Goodrell again started to adapt. The next school year, Goodrell's administration added focused reading and focused math classes to bridge academic gaps. The mixture of co-teaching and small group intervention periods helped many students make progress. But as many of us in education know, what is successful one year probably won't work the next, just that by itself. The 2023-2024 school year, some classes had 10 to 15 students in a small group setting. That is not very small. This proved to be very challenging for both students and educators. The diverse learner team came together and admitted the system was not serving all of our students to the best of our abilities. As a team, we brainstormed a plan for the next school year to hopefully better serve our students. It is often said that Goodrell is the pride of Des Moines. In my experience, that has rung true every step of the way. Instead of forcing students to fit into the system, Goodrell adapts and creates a new system to meet each individual need of our students. I believe this is one of the many reasons why Goodrell students who have IEPs have a higher self-efficacy. Goodrell is truly the pride of DMS, Des Moines, because we go the extra mile to meet students' needs where they are and help them to be that all they can be. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sydney Jamison, and I am also a teacher of diverse learners at Goodrell. As Haley described, a huge part of our students' self-efficacy success at Goodrell comes from allowing students to practice their reading and math skills in a setting that is appropriate for their individualized needs. For some students, that looks like receiving general education core instruction along with additional minutes in the special education setting to work at their instructional level. I hypothesize that when students are given a low-risk space to practice reading or math skills, it helps them to build the confidence and belief that they are capable of doing anything they are tasked with in class. I wanted to share a couple of success stories. Oftentimes in class, students are asked to volunteer to read something aloud off the board, and our students with IEPs are sometimes the first and only students to raise their hand to read. When Haley and I were talking about what we wanted to share, we realized that this rang true for about 5 to 10 of our students, which is amazing. I am so thrilled that despite their struggles with reading, that they believe they are capable of doing what is asked of them, as we as teachers do as well. I truly believe these students' opportunities to practice reading in a smaller group setting gives them the confidence to do so in a large group setting. There are so many individual stories of success as well, like a 7th grader gaining a newfound confidence and not relying on teacher scaffolding or supports, or a 6th grader whom at the beginning of the year would not read or write anything, usually trying to have an adult do it, but at the end of the year was reading things out loud and writing independently. There are so many more student success stories we could share, but I want to end with this. I know as teachers at Goodrell, we hold our students to high expectations, and we hold our diverse learners to the same expectations as their peers. While the way that they get there might look different as far as scaffolds or accommodations go, the expectations are still the same. And I think that students can pick up on that and realize that we're not changing the expectations for them. As researcher and author Lisa Del Pitt puts it, we're being, quote, warm demanders who help students realize that they can achieve beyond anything they may have believed. And that is so true for all of our students, especially our diverse learners. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julie Cherikoff, and I'm one of the counselors at Goodrell. My teammate had plans to go out of town before we got this invitation, so everything that I speak to tonight is definitely a team effort with us in our counseling department. But I'm going to speak more to the board goal and the Goodrell goal, and now the Goodrell School Counseling goal of raising the math proficiency of our Black male scholars. And so, going through, I think you already know that counselors work under the America School Counseling umbrella, and under that, we've all been tasked to ramp, which means we are to have a recognized ASCA program, which basically just means that we need to be data-driven. So at the beginning of the year, we're looking to set a goal. And so we set our annual student outcome goal to be to mirror the district goal and the school goal of increasing that math proficiency. And so some of the work that we did is we did 4 different interventions with our Black male students. The first one was we sat down with each one of the students, the counselors did, and we had a meeting. And we showed them what their math score was. We showed them what would it mean to be proficient, and help them to understand what proficient means, and then we help them to set a goal for their math. So now they're thinking about it and they know what they're working towards. And then we set up mentoring. We weren't able to set up mentoring for every one of our boys. We didn't have enough, but over half of them had a mentor. And those mentors met with them intentionally 2 times a month, and they talked about math, and they talked about how's math going, and how did the tests go, and do you need tutoring, and just helping them work through anything with math. And then they had a family contact 1 time a month, just to talk about that as well. And then Kelsey and I had small groups with all of the boys. And we did the regular counseling things about time management and organization and those kinds of things. But we also spoke to their academic identity. And we addressed the cultural stereotype threat of Black boys can't be mathematicians. And we talked about that, and we addressed it and pushed back on it and had some good dialogue about that. And then the last thing that we did was the most fun part, and we had 3 what we call immersive experiences. The first one, Dr. Roberts joined us in October at Goodrell, and we had what we called a Black male math symposium. And we invited, I don't know how many we had, maybe 15 men of color from our community leaders. And they came and spoke. We had an assembly, and Dr. Roberts was gracious enough to to MC that for us and just really spoke to these young men. And they were surrounded by other community leaders who then we broke off into smaller groups. And then the men talked to the boys about what was their middle school experience like? How did they get to where they're at? What did they do if they were having trouble with a teacher or a class? Then we went back together and had another kind of a send-off with some really cool, just all of the men speaking to the boys and just filling them up. And then later in the wintertime, we took the boys to the fifth Judicial Court of Iowa. Marcus Wilson is the district court administrator, and he toured them there. And he introduced them to Black judges and Black attorneys and let them see a whole nother side of the court system that they may not even have realized was there. And representation matters, right? You need to see people who look like you in order to see yourself doing something like that. And it was very cool to see that and see the boys just seeing different possibilities for themselves. And then the last thing we did right before school was out, we took them to Leachman's Pit Stop Barbecue for lunch. It's a Black-owned restaurant. And the owner came out, Mr. Leachman came out and talked to the boys about middle school is hard, and he was in special ed, and here's the things that he came up against. And now he's a business owner, and he's had foster children. And it was really cool to see that dialogue with the kids. And just, again, seeing themselves as entrepreneurs, as business owners. I just want to share with you a little bit of data, because I know you have the data, but from our winter A math proficiency and growth, our 8th grade boys showed 27% aggressive growth, but our 7th grade boys showed a 53 show of aggressive growth in their math proficiency. Yeah. Thank you. And that's the data, right? But then you have the heart data. You have the boys coming. We couldn't leave our offices without them saying, when are we going to have another group? Did you see my test score? I got an ET. When are those guys coming back? That you see that it was really impacting them, right? So when I reflect on a couple things quickly, when I was reflecting on what I wanted to talk to you and say, what was out of the 4 things that we did for intervention, what was the most impactful? And I was looking at, the mentoring, the immersive experiences, the one-on-one meetings and the small groups. And I think they were all equally. And the reason why is because it let these students know that people were rooting for them, advocating for them, watching them, expecting great things from them. And they wanted to live up to that. And they worked hard to live up to that. And I think that is what Goodrell does across the board. You hear the great work from the teachers. It's a real team effort. And I want to say that this work cannot be done without the admin support that we have. Carrie Romo went to a meeting this summer for administrators, and it was the ASCA came, the American School Counseling came and talked to them. And she came away from that meeting and came back and said, if I want my counselors to do this good work, I'm going to take away 504s. They don't need to manage the 504s anymore. That's paperwork, right? And I don't know if there's any other schools that the counselors don't do that. She took away our lunch duty and said, we need you to do other things. We asked her, can we have 2 hours of protected time every week to go and work on our ASCA work? And she's, no problem. We could ask for 3 or 4. She supports in that way. So 2 hours a week, we take off our walkies, we go hide, and we work on our ASCA stuff, right? And that's what Goodrell has. We have a great team, and we have great administrators. Thank you.
Thanks again for having us, and hopefully just through us being able to share what it is that we're doing using the vehicle of math and all of the other work that we're doing, how we are supporting teacher-student relationships and also improving self-efficacy among our students. You all are invited anytime, no appointment necessary. Please come on out and visit Goodrell. Thank you.
Thank you. Just hold on one second, if that's okay. I wanted to see if any board members have a quick question that they might want to ask. I know I have one, but does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask?
No questions. At the end, you said that this is what Goodrell does. I don't think it's Goodrell that does the work. I think it's you. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. So there were a couple of things as I was listening to you that you talked about that had impact, and I'm curious about barriers, right? So I think about the comment that was made about math mentors specifically, and Is there a way that our community can help when you're looking for more math mentors? Or are there, it's always helpful for the school board to hear whether it's through volunteerism or you can lobby for, more staff or small group interventions or whatever that might be. Like, what are some of the barriers to accelerating your progress even more?
Yeah, I think specifically with the mentors, our goal was to match each one of our Black males with a Black male mentor. And that was kind of the hard part with people who work and all of that in our school hours, kind of that restriction. That was much of the barrier, but we're hoping that we can think differently about that and make that happen this upcoming school year.
And the other question I was going to ask, if it's okay, is the connection to Gleam, because there's obviously a lot of similarities. Gleam is a framework, and so a lot of the things that you're already doing seem to fit underneath that. Is that how you think about it, Principal
Absolutely,
Romo?
yep. Our high expectations for our learners definitely is that grade level expectation, how our teachers structure their classrooms and the engagement that happens is that E, and then we're all about the affirming and meaningful, ensuring that we're centering our learners and everything that we do and their full self, how they show up each day. So we're all in on Gleam. That's,
It's exciting. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I did have a comment, and I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for what you're doing for those students. I know you're all familiar with the study of knowledge and epistemology, and the lady that was up there right before you talked about, of the 4 things that were happening, she couldn't decide what was the most impactful. And when you study knowledge and acquiring knowledge, it comes in different forms, it comes in different spaces. Them being at a restaurant with a Black man, them being in the judicial court with a Black man, those having the Black male symposium, math symposium, they're acquiring learning and knowledge throughout all of those experiences. So thank you for what you're doing, and I would certainly encourage you to continue to be innovative in your approach to education. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Principal Romo, my guess is Mr. Mayberry Mays, if he didn't attend last year's math scholarly forum, will be coming this year.
I would love an invite.
Yes, we have you on our list, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you all.
appreciate it. Dr. Roberts, anything else?
Just very quickly and briefly, just listening to you all present today and really breaking down barriers and opening doors for all of your students. I've had a chance to visit Goodrell in several classes on a few occasions, but just more specifically, to see the joy in your students in the halls. They love to come and dap me up when I see them, and that's always a fun time. But just the fact that you, with some intentionality, right, are focused on asset instead of deficit-based language. When you talk about your students, certainly you talk about Black males, goes a really, really long way. Goodrell, under the leadership of your dynamic principal, Carrie Roma, you all are cultivating a rich garden of self-efficacy, right? And we know that a simplistic definition of self-efficacy is just one's belief in their ability to be successful. And now more than ever, we want our students, certainly Black males, to believe that they can elevate themselves and rise to the highest heights. Keep cultivating those gardens, continues to be gardeners for our students around self-efficacy and academic excellence. We are so proud of the work you all are doing, and we expect to see this work happening throughout the entire organization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great summer. Are there any other speakers to the consent agenda?
None that signed up.
Ms. Alonso, I believe you have the consent motion.
I do. I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $2,334,782.11.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Alonso and a second by Martirano. Any discussion, or does anybody have questions? Board members, please cast your votes. Mr. Dix?
Yes.
The vote is approved 7-0. Now we have other discussion items. The first item is E1, committee updates. All right, board members.
Since I'm going to have to scoot a little early, so I was just thinking in the order if I could go early.
I would love for Ms. Knox to go first. Thank you.
For the compensation or review and superintendent review
So
committee.
just so folks that are listening know, the board is distributing the work. So what is it? Light work makes, many hands make light work. So this is just our opportunity to check in around progress to goal and just a quick what's going on and what you need from your colleagues or any barriers to your success.
I don't think we have any barriers. Our committee is meeting tomorrow evening, and we'll be looking forward to the FY25 review process. We'll be getting that after our meeting with the city council tomorrow evening.
Perfect. And just so folks know, that's the Evaluation and Compensation Committee, and that's Skylar, Ms. Norris, me, and Ms. Knox. And it is to create the evaluation process, which needs to be approved by the board and presented to Dr. Roberts before the end of the month. Who else wants to go? And I know, Ms. Knox, you need to leave. And also, I'll just point out, Ms. Knox and Mr. Mayberry Mays are on the foundation, and I know that work is progressing as well. Right.
Yes, the Des Moines Public Schools Foundation continues to meet monthly. We do take a month off in the summer as things get lighter, but make sure, I believe that everyone on the board has the one run. Thank you for getting that on everyone's calendar. Rosie, in September, that progress is moving along, and we also are still working on planning our winter dinner fundraising event that will be in February. So we'll make sure to get that on everyone's calendar as well. We are continuing to look for board members. So to my board colleagues, if you come across anyone who would be a great addition to the Des Moines Public Schools Foundation Board, we would love to have you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it to Ms. Alonso and Ms. Muratorano and potentially Mr. Mayberry Mays, although he might have just got pulled in at the last minute on the SOFG Board Governance Committee, which includes a retreat.
Yes, I think that the update that we have is that we are working on getting our retreat figured out. So we have some dates that we need to come up with so that we're able to do it hopefully in July. Be looking at your email because you should be looking at your calendar and availability. Kim, do we have anything else that we need to add?
Can you generally foreshadow what the agenda that was talked about, just at a high level?
At a high level, the board will be reviewing governance practices, our student outcomes focused governance practices, specifically with a focus on monitoring and the efficiency and effective and efficacy of our monitoring practices. We will follow up on our or come circle around to our work on, oh my goodness.
Reimagining education?
Our personality.
Myers-Briggs work.
Myers-Briggs work, yes. So we're going to revisit our Myers-Briggs work to include our newest board member and identify areas of opportunity for our board when it comes to how we can be most effective in serving the students and the district. We will also have work around our board policy manual. There will be homework prior to the retreat. And I use the word retreat very lightly. And we will also do trust falls. No, we won't. There was one other item. Arts and crafts, no.
Potentially some vision work?
Yes,
if
we are.
we're-
We will be working on a shared vision statement, and discussing whether or not that's best done as a part of our retreat or if it's best done as part of our strategic planning work. So those are at a high level, what we'll be focusing on during our retreat in July.
Great. And just on the date, I know there's lots of moving pieces. Rosie, do you have what you need, or are we moving forward on a doodle? I'm looking at either Maria or Rosie.
We are waiting for Dr. Roberts' feedback on his calendar. Then, once we know his calendar, we will be sharing possible dates with the entire board, and then we will be working with our speakers and guest educators to check with their calendars. So lots of calendars to align with this process, and I hope that the stars align when we try and find dates that work.
Correct. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Dix, do you want to say anything about the naming guidelines for DMPS Facilities Committee, which is you? Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. Just briefly to bring the board up to date, I'm not sure we discussed this, but based off of a couple of requests for naming of facilities in Des Moines Public Schools, we started to undertake a review of the naming guidelines for Des Moines Public Schools facilities, taking a look at whether there needed to be enhancements of the existing policy, examine where we already have facilities named and where there is potential for any kind of naming of a facility, and then looking for opportunities within that to build community pride and potentially add some resources to the district as well through the naming of facilities. And so in all of that, there's a lot of information to gather, and that's going on right now, including a review of all of the facilities that are named and how that happened. So we have a little bit of history behind it. And then I just sent out an invitation for July as well for a committee meeting so that we could get together and try to come up with a base for a draft by the fall that we can bring back to the board and the community for some feedback before coming with a recommendation to Dr. Roberts for a final policy for naming rights.
Great, thank you. And let's see, Dr. Roberts, you are the representative for UEN. Is there anything at this point that's really a group that I know is more active during the legislative session? Is there anything you want to say about UEN currently?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. There are no updates at this time, but the UEN network, Urban Education Network, it's one that has been very active this year and has certainly served us well as a school system, but there are no current updates at this time.
Great, thank you. Iowa Association of School Boards, that is a association. I'm currently the voting member. I'm excited that Anna attended one early meeting where Central Iowa school board members came together. Dr. Roberts actually attended as well. And hopefully over time, Anna will become the voting member. And they have a conference coming up in the fall, so I'll be sure all of you have the information for it if you are interested in attending. Ms. Martirano, anything on Council of Great City Schools?
The fall conference has been announced, and I will share the dates for that fall conference where there will be some guest speakers have already been announced, and we will be in Texas this year collaborating with other school boards and superintendents. So I will follow up with more information later.
Okay, great. And then, Ms. Alonso, anything, Des Moines Parks and Rec, I know tomorrow we're actually going to be getting a little bit of a presentation from Ben Page and Parks and Rec. Is there anything you want to say at this point?
Yes. Well, there was a little bit of a gap in our participation. I was able to attend a meeting just last week. Coming back, just know that our families are out now in parks, enjoying. I think it's a relationship that we definitely need to take care of with our Des Moines Parks and Rec. They have historically offered lots of support to our students over the summertime. So it's good to be back there.
Great, thanks. They have a lot of low-cost programming, so if you're not familiar with Parks and Rec and how they work with DMPS, we should all be really proud of the partnership that we have to date. And then the last one I'll call out, not to put you on the spot, Kim, but just to acknowledge that CLAT, which is the Community Legislative Action Team, is something that has been a historic partnership with DMPS, and I know there's just conversations about what our relationship looks like. Anything you want to say at this point?
No report.
Yep. And I think probably this summer we'll be spending some time just thinking about legislative agenda and how all of the different stakeholders work together as it relates to Des Moines' legislative agenda. I think I covered everything. Is that right? Any questions or comments regarding committees? Part of this was me trying to put everybody on the spot, so thank you, because action-forcing events are great to get meetings set up. Okay, with that, I am going to actually suggest that we move to the second information item, which is Reimagining Education Update. As Matt Smith is coming to the table, I want to call out that currently Patrick Dix and I serve as representatives to Matt in his role of leading Reimagining Education. We aim to be board liaisons to try and bring information from the work that Matt's doing and bring it back to the board and help think through how the board works through the process alongside to make sure that we're tracking towards an end goal, which is reimagining education in FY25, 26, and beyond.
Perfect. And I believe you have a slide deck. Is that correct? Okay, so we're ready to go. So
currently, though, Kyle, we are seeing ourselves on YouTube. So maybe just a quick change. You look very official, Mr. Smith.
thank you. I was just noticing my my beard.
Yes,
and,
yes, that's okay.
yeah.
You'll get to Walgreens later. Okay, we're making progress. There we go.
If you like, just let me know. I'm just.
Yes, okay.
Oh, perfect, there it is. Well, thank you so much tonight, Board, for allowing me to represent the Committee of Reimagining Education. I will do my very, very best to represent this group incredibly well tonight. So tonight is just a brief update to kind of level set where we've been in Phase 1. We just started Phase 2 actually last night, and so we'll give you some objectives about what that group and that committee is looking to accomplish in Phase 2. But we'll jump in and just sort of level set, not just for you, but also for the many viewers at home and all the folks here in the audience tonight. So a couple things that we're going to talk about is what is a reimagining education plan. We're going to talk a little bit about a fiscal problem that we need to solve as a part of this plan. Who's actually working on the plan, who's represented, what the process is, and what has been completed in Phase 1, and how we're embarking and tackling Phase 2, which again just started last night. So at a very high level, a facility plan is a long-range plan. It is going to establish both future facilities while also renovating and optimizing current facilities. That is at its foundational level. It could include a number of things. This is not an exhaustive list, nor is it a list of potential outcomes that will absolutely be enacted. So I want to make that perfectly clear. But our plan, when we're all said and done, when we come before you with a recommendation about what the committee suggests and how we move forward to optimize our facilities, could include boundary changes. It could include new schools. It can include renovations to current schools. It could include consolidations. It could include grade configuration changes. So there's a lot of depth and breadth to this particular facility plan around reimagined education that will and maybe possibly be a part of an ultimate recommendation in the fall. So what is reimagining education? So we thought we would pull together this slide because when it boils down into what this particular committee is working on, there are 7 specific components that this committee is actually looking to achieve. And these are intentionally in order. And so the first is emboldening future-ready students. And so we want to continue to create and foster and enhance and cultivate students that are confident and competent about not only who they are, but who they are meant to be so that they leave our doors joyful and ready to take on the world, whatever that might look like for each of them. We want to make sure that we enhance every educational experience for each and every student and staff member. One of the things that I was really just moved by is watching that Goodrell staff come to the podium with confidence and competence and joy about what they do. That pretty much says it right there, right? We want to create the facilities and the conditions by which staff members are unencumbered by their physical surroundings and the infrastructure, but it's actually provoking and evoking that joy in them to serve our students. And so this is every bit as much about staff members and honoring them and pouring the resources into them as it is our students and our families. Number 3 there is about investing in human capital programs. Again, they were great representatives of that just moments ago. Sustaining educational initiatives, aligning with district goals, strategically optimizing facilities, and of course, addressing financial constraints. I say that these are in order because you'll notice that the first 3 high-level objectives of this plan is about experiences. It's about people. It's not about infrastructure. We will address infrastructure, and we will absolutely look to optimize the resources that we have as it relates to infrastructure. But the actual plan in terms of reimagining education in Des Moines Public Schools is not about buildings. It's not about bricks and mortar, though those will be outcomes that we will absolutely look to reinvest in and actually allocate differently moving forward. The very last bullet was about fiscal constraints. And so that's actually a problem that we still need to solve as an organization. We've got a trending loss of enrollment in the last several years, and the projections that we've gotten from our enrollment analysis over the last 2 years from our consultants with RSP is that that trend is going to continue. And so if you look at our peak enrollment, and there's a slide in this deck that I can point this out for you, but at a high level, if you look at our peak enrollment around FY18 to now, we've lost about 3,300 students. At about $8,000 a student, we're at about $27 million. The projection in the next 5 years is that we're going to lose an additional almost 1,000 students. And so from the peak in 17-18 into the projected valley in 27-28, it's about a 4,000 student loss with projections. That's going to culminate to more than $30 million of revenue that is no longer in our district. And so that's one of the reasons why we're in this committee work is looking at our allocations, looking at our physical plant infrastructure, because all of the money that we utilize to pay for the lights, to pay for the mechanical, the electrical, and the infrastructure at the spaces that our students, staff, and families are served in is coming from general fund. And so we want to make sure that we are optimizing those dollars and that we are being flexible and fluid with the context that we are currently dealing with, and also building and reimagining new spaces to attract students and to retain the students and families that we have. There's a number of folks that are involved in this. And so this is obviously not a small undertaking, and it involves a number of committee members. There are several DMPS employees, there are teachers, there are administrators, there are principals, associate principals, coaches, lots of staff members on this committee, in addition to parents, community members, business leaders, students. And so there's a slide here at the end of the deck that speaks very specifically to our committee makeup, and there's a request that I'm going to ask of the board tonight. But in addition to that, we've got consultants from both RSP and BBS that are involved in this project with us as well. And the vision is to actually be the premier destination of choice for families. We want to make sure we understand that families have a choice, and that's celebrated, and that's wonderful. We want to be that choice, and this committee is dedicated and committed to making sure that we truly reimagine the educational experience for each and every child, each and every staff member and family, so that they choose Des Moines Public Schools, and when they have that information in front of them, they choose us because they know that we are going to love their child, we're going to cherish them, we're going to honor them, and we are going to challenge them academically, so that when they walk out of our doors, they are fully confident and fully competent in who they are, who they're meant to be, and how they're going to serve our community, our state, and our city. The committee has been very, very focused and anchored literally in these 4 components. What we believe strongly is that we do each of these things very well. However, we can be better in each of these components. We offer a very dynamic and diverse multicultural learning experience. We have an incredible suite of academics to offer students. We have world-class career and technology education programs already in place. And we also have an amazing wraparound holistic child development program. Again, Goodrell was another example of each of these components here tonight. While we do these things well, while we believe strongly that we do them better than our competitors, our neighboring districts, we can be better and we can do better, because while we're doing pretty well in all these respects, we still are not reaching all of our students. We're still not reaching all of our staff members and all of our family members. And so this committee recognizes that, and they are anchoring their conversations in these particular components, knowing that we have to enhance and develop these programs even more so to fully reach each and every one of our 30,000 students, our 5,000 employees, and their families. And when you take those components, those 4 components, and you wrap them around the gears, what this particular visual is meant, or this graphic is meant to represent, is that it takes all of us. What you see within the gears themselves are all represented on the committee. Government is represented, families are represented, faculty and staff, business leaders, multicultural community, they're all represented on this committee, because it will take all of us. It will take a number of us to sit around the table and make sure that our diverse experiences and unique perspectives are brought to the table, so that we can make sure that we are achieving our outcome, which is to reach each and every child and staff member and family and improve their educational experience to the point where we are the destination of choice from here on out. Again, just a recap, reasons why we're in this. We've got a forecasted loss of enrollment. We need to utilize our buildings differently. We need to optimize the utilization of our buildings. There are some very real financial and budget realities that we need to address, and this is one methodology by which we can address that. We've got some necessary reinvestments in facilities that we need to make. Just a quick note, the average age of our buildings is almost 80 years old. And so that's a significant factor in our Reimagining education work. And of course, we've got opportunity for program evaluations. And so this is not just about physical plant structure. We are also looking at programming. We're looking at educational models, grade configurations, attendance boundaries. All of those are possible in this particular committee. This chart is just to give you sort of a longitudinal understanding of what has trend enrollments as well as projected enrollments. And this is just meant to just represent for you what I highlighted earlier. If we look at 2017, 2018, and we fast forward into our projected 27, 28, that loss of enrollment will be approximately 4,000 students. And so that's a little bit over $30 million. This graphic is important, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about it briefly, because it's meant to represent that there are 3 sort of areas with multiple sort of aspects that this committee is focused on. If you look at academics, economics, and culture, each of these play an important role in looking at our facility planning process holistically. And so it's not about a few single data points in terms of the maintenance and operational cost of a building. That is certainly a data point that we look at. But there's a number of data points. We look at development, the economic development within our city and within our communities. Where is that happening? Where is that not happening? We look at the community support, clubs, organizations, parental involvement. All of these aspects, we talked about Parks and Rec moments ago. Where are the parks? Where are the opportunities for us to join and connect and have synergy with our city around park development, and what does that mean for our schools? Housing development, we look a lot at where there's opportunities for additional housing in the city of Des Moines that is in Des Moines proper. So all of these aspects come together because we can't just focus on one. We've got to look at the culture, we've got to look at the academics, and we absolutely have to look at the economics that are impacting our facility plan. The committee members raised their hand, and they when this first began back in October, and they committed for a 2-year process. And so we're about 6 months in, 6.5 months in, and still going strong. We are on track. I think that was the last time we gave an update. There was a question of, are we on track? And the answer then was yes, and today it's yes. We are on track. So in phase 1, we talked about a number, I'm gonna get to that process here real quick. a number of aspects. Phase one was specifically around breaking up into subcommittees and doing some deep dives into facilities, programs, and student experiences, and looking at research and data, both in-house data as well as national data. And so that was a large majority of that time spent in phase one with our committee members, and really collecting a lot of information about what do we want to see continue in our district? What do we want to see be enhanced, all right? Is there something missing in the student experience or in the staff experience or the family experience that we want to make sure that we address in our multi-year facility plan moving forward? All of that was part of phase one that consisted of a number of activities. But the objectives of phase one was ultimately to come to a culminating artifact, which are the belief statements. You know me, sometimes I get, I'm a little impatient, and so sitting in meetings and readings for multiple months to get to a culminating belief statement, that can be a bit frustrating, because we've been through these belief statements many, many times. But I will tell you, having the first phase two meeting last night, and knowing that this strong committee, that is now 71 strong, is representing belief statements, and knowing that these belief statements are going to serve as guardrails by which we actually make decisions and we have discussions and we lift up our values, is incredibly important, because we're getting to the real meat of the work in phase two. And so phase one absolutely involved all of these activities, where there were site tours, film screenings. The facility condition assessment was completed by BBS. All of these activities culminated into these belief statements. There's some readings for you. These are just a small sampling of readings. There's a litany of research out there that the committee continues to invest time and energy in looking at best practices. And ultimately, this is what we landed on. These are our belief statements. They're focused around facilities, program offerings, student experience, and finance focus. And these belief statements will serve as our guardrails and keep us on track during phase two and into phase three. I'll let that sit up there for just a second. Just listening to Goodrell team tonight, I would lift up the student experience focus and how they are very well representing meaningful and empowering, fostering a sense of belonging and inspiring achievement. That was a perfect example of that tonight. Once phase one was completed, we surveyed our committee based on these belief statements, and these were the results we got out of that survey. I wanted you to see this because it's not, I didn't want to paint a picture that, 100% of folks just absolutely believe that it was going well and it was an incredibly easy process. That's not the case. When you get what began as 85 committee members in a room, and it sort of had some attrition over the months, for a moment there was about 53 strong active committee members. We're back up to 71 now. But that's a long time, and you're not going to get 100% consensus in these conversations. And that's a matter of fact, we actually don't want 100%. If we're all just showing up and rubber stamping the conversation, that's actually not what we're after. We're looking folks to challenge thinking and bring their unique perspectives to the table and lift up what they believe is important. That's what's actually going to galvanize us moving forward. Enter in phase two. Again, that started last night, and here are the objectives for phase two. This is where we really begin to take all the data, all the research, and begin to look very specifically at enrollment trends, facility condition assessments, and how is that impacting our decision-making regarding the allocation of resources. What might we need to do, best planning practices and strategies. We are looking at attendance zones. What is that, where are students migrating both intra-district and out of district, that we need to make sure that our facility plan is accommodating and that we're being thoughtful about. We'll look at, is there potential for new schools in a space that actually doesn't have anything right now, that we actually own property? Is there property that the city owns that we might need to consider a partnership with, because that particular space is the right location based on development in recent years and future trends or future projections? So there's a ton of information that this committee is absorbing And last night, as a first step in phase 2, the productive struggle was real for the committee. I'll put it that way. I think last night there was one committee, I think, put it really, really well, which was, I don't like this because this is really, really challenging, and it is, and it's supposed to be, because anything worth doing is worth digging deeply in and looking at the broad landscape to make sure that we don't miss anything, any opportunities to better serve our students, our staff, and our families. So phase 2 is among us right now. Again, we just started last night. We've got a long way to go. Phase 2 will actually end in September, and so in the fall. There'll be a lot of outcomes in phase 2. I did want to give you a quick sort of makeup of the representation. So when we began the committee meeting, again, if you look to the left side of this, phase 1 committee composition, down there at the bottom, you'll see representation, total number 85. We began with 85. Over the months, there was some attrition. There was, sometimes life circumstances where folks couldn't continue to show up. The commitment of a 2-year commitment and spending hours each month coming to this particular space actually is challenging. And so there were some unforeseen circumstances, and it began to wane quite a bit. And so our staff makeup changed pretty dramatically. And you can see that as we go to phase 2, where we were once 50% parents, now we're down to 22% parents. And so we do have multiple members that are represented in multiple categories for sure. But we've actually dropped our parental participation by 30%. And so actually an ask of you tonight, and I sent an email actually earlier on during the school board meeting, was to look at the list of committee members that are with us now. There's 71 of them, and ask that if you've got recommendations or if you've got suggestions for committee members that the team and I could reach out to, that are both parents and also representative of our BIPOC community. We absolutely want to engage in that conversation to wage their interest in actually raising their hand to commit for the next year with this committee. It is groundbreaking work. Many districts that are involved in this do not engage in this conversation as inclusively and broadly as we have. We've heard that many, many times already from our consultants, and we've heard it many, many times for our committee members that have had some experiences in other districts across the country. And so I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to represent this particular committee. And we have a ton of work ahead of us. Phase 2 is an incredibly heavy lift, but it's going to be fruitful. The last slide is specifically to let you know that the BBS project has concluded. All of their field assessments and their reporting is done. This is just a high level of some of the various components that they lifted up in each of our 70-plus sites that they were in, everything from electrical to mechanical. And you can see what we've got now in each and every facility is an estimated cost of renovations, as well as estimated cost of any sort of investigations or studies that we might need to look at a large scale. So we are data rich right now. And this is where the heavy lift comes in, is how do we take all of that data and process it into these belief statements to make sure that we are recommending and seeking out a reimagined educational experience that lifts up the joy of learning and the joy of teaching and the joy of serving one another, while also challenging students academically to be exactly who they were created to be and where they want to go in the next stage of their life. I'll stop there.
This is really exciting work. Thanks for the great presentation. Board members, any quick high-level questions that you want to ask at this time?
Just one. I know that you're going to be looking for some community members, right? And we're trying to focus on getting more diversity, right? If you have anyone from the community that wants to participate, that can commit, is language something that we're willing to accommodate?
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, we sure are.
And there's childcare also
There's childcare,
available.
and there's snacks. Matter of fact, there's snacks left over.
So
Sign my family up.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, right.
But I appreciate that because it is, we've really got to work hard to make sure we have all the right voices who can commit to, I mean, how many meetings, give or take, what's the time commitment?
Yeah, we're
to the
looking
best
at,
of your-
typically, it's one meeting in person a month. There's some work outside of the meeting, but the once a month is 2 to 2.5 hours long. But looking at the data and processing it in between meetings is important. We're also actually looking to offer some virtual sessions in between meetings, just to brainstorm and think out loud and answer questions from committee members. So,
Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. That was actually really helpful as well. The one other area I noticed that was dropping in the representation was the student voice. It went from 11% to 1%.
yes, sir.
Can you share a little bit about what the student representation looks like so we can make recommendations for that as well?
Yes, sir. So there's one consistent young man from East High School that has been present at every single meeting and every single site visit. Christopher Chavez, I'm assuming he's just amazing, absolutely amazing. We've had other students show up, but they don't show up consistently in terms of being active for our committee. And so we are in need actually of students to be physically present from every demographic. We seek out, a lot of times it's high school students, but middle school students have a difficulty sometimes with the transportation to and from. Although we've driven folks to and from homes, we can accommodate that as well. But we are looking actually for student representation in every demographic.
Perfect, thank you.
You bet, thank you.
Great. And so, Matt, we all have information in our inboxes to learn more about
You do.
the committee to date. Okay. Well, just so folks are.
Madam Chair.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Dix.
Sorry, one question. Matt, how much, you mentioned funding in this. We've talked a lot about facilities. I remember some of what Shashank taught us about budgeting and where the different budget buckets sit. How much do you, and I hate to put you on the spot here, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but how much money is sitting in buckets that we currently can't use in the district? In other words, how much of our money or our taxpayers' money is tied up in buckets that we are unable to use, and how much would that be a help in this work?
Would it be okay if we actually table this question? I feel like.
I can get an
Mr.
answer
Dix-
for you, yeah. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't know that off the top of my head, but I could get that.
Sure.
Yeah, just
Good
to-
question.
Yeah, come back to you so we have time to just put together a more thoughtful answer.
You bet.
It's a great question. Okay, with that, any other final thoughts? This is exciting work, I think, for anybody who's sitting in the audience or listening to this. The opportunity that DMPS has to be thinking this way is really exciting. And so thank you for your leadership, and thanks to everybody that participates in it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And with that, we are going to move to items of privilege. I'm going to ask our board members first if there's anything you'd like to share.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate Pride Month. This is a time when we honor the history, achievements, and contributions of the LGBTQ+ community. It is also a time to recognize the ongoing struggles and challenges faced by our LGBTQ+ individuals, particularly our students, staff, and their families. Our school district is committed to fostering an environment where every student feels safe, valued, and respected, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Education is not just about academic achievement, it is also about building a community where diversity is celebrated and where every individual has the opportunity to thrive. We know that students who identify as LGBTQ+ can face unique challenges, including bullying, discrimination, and mental health concerns. It is our responsibility to ensure that our schools are places where these students can feel secure and supported. This includes implementing inclusive policies, providing resources and support services, and promoting awareness and understanding among all members of our school community. During Pride Month, I encourage everyone to engage in learning and dialogue about the experiences of LGBTQ+ individuals. This can include classroom discussions, events, and activities that highlight the importance of acceptance and inclusion. By doing so, we not only support our LGBTQ+ students, but also educate all students about the values of empathy, respect, and human dignity. Let us use this month as an opportunity to recommit ourselves to the principles of equality and justice. Let us celebrate the diversity that enriches our schools, and we often refer to as our superpower, and work together to create a future where every student can be proud of who they are. Happy Pride.
Thanks, Ms. Martirano. Other comments from board members?
Thank you, Ms. Kim, for sharing that. And there is an opportunity for people that want to volunteer this weekend at our event. Yes.
My comment is slightly different, but thank you for that as well, Kim. Today is primary election day. I'm glad to see so many stickers on the dais, but also in the audience. Polls close at 8 o'clock. Please don't leave us early, but hopefully you take a moment to cast your vote in the primary election.
Thank you. I just
Can I say one more thing? I'm so sorry. Thank you to our educators. Thank you for all of your work every day this year. We look forward to seeing you again next year. We're hoping to see everyone come back. And thank you for all the support staff that is out there also serving students and families. Today, I was invited to be part of a gathering with the BFLs, and they received their certificate that we owed them, and it was amazing. And it's a really good time to celebrate everyone, all the work that all of you out there are doing. So thank you for serving families and students. Gracias.
Thanks, Ms. Alonso. And I think my final note of gratitude, I think on behalf of all school board members, is all the hard work that went into graduation. Those graduation celebrations do not happen without a lot of hard work, and so I want to acknowledge that. I don't know who holds the record for shaking the most hands. I think that probably was either Dr. Roberts or somebody of that vein, but that's pretty powerful. I also want to acknowledge, some of you are aware that there was an issue that took place at Roosevelt, and I think there's been some really productive conversations by Des Moines Public Schools and Roosevelt to identify any issues that arose and the way to respond to those issues in the future. So thank you for taking that very seriously, as it should have been done, and we appreciate that. With that, Dr. Roberts, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly, there are many moments throughout the course of the year where I, as a DMPS teammate and superintendent, walk around with an incredible sense of pride because I've been called to serve in a district that certainly has a cadre of teacher, staff, and school leaders who truly epitomize what pre-K-12 educators should be. Today was one of those days, certainly sitting in this seat on the dais and observing Principal Carrie Romo and the Goodrell team share a little bit about the work that they're doing reminds us that public education should continue to be a priority in every single arena in this country, from political, social, economic, and others. And so thank you for that work. Additionally, I'm incredibly proud of the recognitions that we had today that are not only on the local stage, but national recognitions, both Linda and Savannah. It speaks volumes about the work that we are doing here in Des Moines Public Schools. And certainly we could not do this without the incredible support of our larger Des Moines community. So thank you, community members, for continuing to believe in us and value in public education as you should. And so we appreciate that. And to the teammates who are here that are really playing an integral role in our Reimagining Education, Reinvigorating Schools Committee, Matt Smith, who presented earlier, Amanda Miller, Dave Berger, and I believe our CFO Shashank Karur is also now a part of that work. For years to come, and I know there's a lot of work left, but for years to come, our community and our students will remember this journey that we've embarked upon. Matt, I'm glad that you highlighted for all of us sitting here that this work is less about the impact on physical spaces and facilities, while that's an unintended and probably undesired outcome, but it's more about how do we create the right spaces to embolden students to be truly ready and prepared for the future. We are committed to making sure that we disrupt current educational practices that have not met the needs of all of our students and are not meeting the needs of all of our students. And we want to do so in a way that truly instills additional sense of pride and comfort and confidence in our parents, that when they drop their children in grades pre-K through 12 offered at the Des Moines Public Schools door, that they are going to receive a high-quality, equity-focused, culturally responsive, world-class education. And for that, I am incredibly thankful. And finally, I'm thankful to every single teacher, staff who have shown up this past school year. To echo Ms. Alonso Diaz's comments earlier, we cannot do this work without you. We attempt every single day to represent your voices, your efforts, and your commitment. And I know that there's so many moments where we feel miserably. We ask for your grace, and we also encourage you to continue to reach out to us, because this work requires true partnership. Have a great summer. Wherever you choose to vacation, whatever drinks you choose to indulge in, come back to us safely. We need you.
Thanks, Dr. Roberts. Thank you for joining us this evening. This meeting is adjourned at 6:51 p.m. Have a great rest of your week.